What if I told you the greatest suffering in life is not failure, not rejection, not even loss, but living as a stranger to yourself? We chase success, approval, and belonging, yet feel more empty than ever. The man who forgets himself forgets life itself. But here's the paradox. The harder you try to be everything, the further you drift from who you truly are. So let me ask you, who are you? When no role, no mask, no title remains. Stay until the end, because there's a powerful bonus lesson waiting. One truth that could make life lighter forever. Wow. The prison of the false self. We live in a world where so many people are running tirelessly, chasing careers, possessions, and approval, yet collapsing into bed each night, feeling hollow and drained. Why is it that even when we have it all, we feel exhausted? This is the hidden weight of carrying an identity that does not belong to us. The Buddha once reminded us, the self built on illusions crumbles at the first touch of truth. Imagine for a moment you are walking through life in a suit of heavy armor. At first, it feels protective, safe, even powerful. But as the years pass, you forget what it feels like to breathe freely, to touch your own skin, to feel lightness. The armor is not you, but you've worn it so long that you mistake it for your body. This armor is the false self, the identity we craft from expectations, comparisons, and borrowed beliefs. Like masks placed one over another, we begin to layer ourselves with images of who we think we should be. A mask for success, a mask for acceptance, a mask for love. But what happens when the masks become so many that we lose sight of the face beneath? The deeper truth is this: much of our suffering arises not from life itself, but from the exhausting labor of pretending. Pause for a moment and reflect. What parts of you are truly yours, and what parts are borrowed from the voices of others? Perhaps the career path you chose was never born from your heart, but inherited from expectation. Perhaps the way you define happiness is not your definition at all, but the echo of society's loud voice. Who would you be without these borrowed scripts? What silence, what peace might be waiting underneath? Finding yourself is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what was always there. Just as peeling away a mask reveals the skin, peeling away illusions reveals your true essence. And here lies the hard lesson. It takes courage to let go of identities that once made us feel safe, even if they suffocate us now. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that clinging to false identities is like grasping smoke. No matter how tightly you hold it, it slips through your fingers. But when you sit with yourself in stillness, when you begin to listen without judgment, you discover that nothing needs to be added to you. The truth of who you are is already whole, already enough. So ask yourself, are you living as the world told you to live? Or are you living as your true self longs to breathe? The greatest prison is the one where the walls are made of your own illusions. And the greatest freedom begins the moment you dare to step outside of them. Because life becomes easier, lighter, and more beautiful when you finally find yourself. 2. Identity, the mirage of labels. We spend much of our lives trying to define who we are, collecting labels like medals on a uniform: student, professional, parent, achiever, dreamer. At first, these labels feel like anchors, giving us a sense of belonging and stability. But why does clinging to identity make life heavier instead of lighter? The truth is simple, yet difficult to face. The more tightly we hold on to an image of ourselves, the more fragile we become when life asks us to change. The Buddha's wisdom whispers to us, the tighter you hold a shadow, the faster it slips away. And so it is with identity. When we cling to who we think we are, life inevitably shakes the ground beneath us. A career ends, a relationship changes, a role we built our whole worth upon is suddenly gone. And in that moment, when the label slips away, we feel as though we have lost everything. But can the loss of a label ever erase the truth of who you are? Imagine trying to bottle a river. For a moment, you may trap its water, but it ceases to flow. It ceases to be alive. Our true self is like that river, ever-changing, ever-flowing. When we try to confine it inside the walls of rigid identity, it loses its vitality. Labels are useful for communication, but dangerous when mistaken for the whole of who we are. Visualize this: your labels written in ink upon a pane of glass. Words like successful, strong, kind, or perhaps even words that wound: failure, weak, unworthy. Now imagine the rain falling gently, washing those words away one by one. At first, it may feel frightening, like being stripped bare. But notice what remains when the rain clears: a window, clean and transparent, open to the infinite sky beyond. That openness, that clarity, that is your true nature. Ask yourself, which label do you secretly fear losing? Is it your role at work, your image in society, or even the idea of being the strong one for everyone around you? What would remain if that label vanished tomorrow? Perhaps it is not a loss at all, but a return to the simple, unshakable awareness that you are more than any name the world gives you. Buddhist teachings remind us that when we release attachment to identity, life becomes lighter. We are no longer dragged down by the fear of losing what was never permanent to begin with. Instead, we become free to flow, to grow, to transform. So let the rain fall. Let the labels wash away. You are not the shadow you cling to. You are the vastness that remains when the shadow disappears. And in that space, life begins to feel easier, softer, and far more real. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I belong to myself." 3. The silent witness within. Every thought you have rises like a wave, dances for a moment, and fades back into the ocean of your mind. Yet, there is something within you that does not rise and fall. Something that remains still as everything else shifts. Who is watching your thoughts, even as they come and go? Who is the one silently aware of your inner storms? This question holds the key to freedom. The wisdom of the Buddha reminds us, the mind speaks, but the witness listens without judgment. Most of us spend our lives entangled in our thoughts, pulled in every direction by their noise. One day we feel confident, the next we are drowning in doubt. One moment we are filled with joy, the next consumed by fear. But there is a deeper truth. These changing states are not who you are. You are not the thought that criticizes you, nor the story that praises you. You are the one quietly watching them all. Picture the vast, endless sky. Clouds drift across it, some light and beautiful, others heavy and dark with storm. The clouds may cover the sky, but they never stain it. In the same way, your thoughts may pass through your mind, but the silent awareness beneath them remains untouched, pure, and limitless. Close your eyes for a moment and listen to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Now ask yourself, who is hearing this sound? Who is aware of this breath? That silent witness is your true self, the part of you that is never lost, never broken. When you rest in this awareness, life's storms no longer control you. They pass, just as all storms do. Reflect for a moment. Are you your thoughts or the one observing them? When anger arises, notice how it comes, lingers, and eventually fades. When joy appears, it too will dissolve. If you were your emotions, you would vanish with them. But you remain the witness, present and unmoved. In Buddhism, this is the path to liberation, not clinging to the clouds, but resting as the sky. When you realize you are not every thought that crosses your mind, the grip of fear, anxiety, and judgment loosens. Life becomes lighter because you no longer fight the storm. You let it pass, knowing it cannot touch the essence of who you are. So the next time your mind fills with noise, pause and remember, you are the witness, not the chatter. The more you anchor yourself in this awareness, the easier life feels. The storms may come, but they will not own you. Because the sky of your being is vast, infinite, and always free. Bore. Living on someone else's script. How much of your life is truly your own? This is a question many avoid, because the answer can be uncomfortable. We spend years chasing approval, shaping ourselves to fit roles handed to us by family, culture, and society. Yet deep down, a quiet unease whispers that perhaps we are living not as ourselves, but as someone else's idea of who we should be. The truth is piercing. Imitation is a slow death disguised as living. When we blindly follow a script written by others, we may appear alive on the outside, but inside, we feel numb, disconnected, and restless. Every choice made only to please others takes us further from our own path. It is like reading lines in a play that was never written for you, convincing to the audience, but hollow to the actor. Think of the countless times you have made decisions with one eye on someone else's judgment. The career you pursued because it looked respectable. The smile you forced because you feared rejection. The goals you adopted simply because they mirrored what the world praised. Each moment felt safe, but safe does not always mean true. Safe can be a cage. Now, visualize yourself holding a script in your hands. The lines are written clearly, telling you what to say, how to act, who to be. For a moment, notice how heavy that script feels. Then, imagine letting it slip from your fingers. It falls silently to the ground, and you stand there with nothing to guide you but your own breath. At first, the silence feels terrifying. But then, within that silence, you discover something sacred. The freedom to live in your own words, your own truth. Reflect deeply. Whose approval have you been chasing? A parent's, a friend's, society's? What if that approval no longer mattered? Would you still live the same life? Or would you finally begin to create one that breathes with your own authenticity? Buddhist teachings remind us that attachment to external validation is a root of suffering. When our worth depends on another's acceptance, we become enslaved to their expectations. But when we return to ourselves, when we listen inwardly, life becomes easier because we no longer act from fear, we act from truth. To live authentically is not rebellion, it is liberation. It is the quiet courage to walk your path without apology, to honor your own heart without shame. The world may not always understand, but peace is not found in their understanding. Peace is found in living honestly with yourself. So drop the script, step into the silence, and remember, your life was never meant to be a performance. It was meant to be a truth lived fully, fearlessly, and in your own voice. 5. The weight of comparison. Why do we suffer when we measure our worth against others? It seems harmless at first, a glance at another's success, a moment of wondering why they seem happier, wealthier, or more admired. But slowly, comparison creeps in like a shadow, dimming the light of our own being. What once felt enough begins to feel small, and what once brought joy now feels inadequate. The Buddha's wisdom teaches us that The tree never envies the mountain, both stand complete. A tree does not look at the mountain and question its worth. The mountain does not look at the sky and feel inferior. Each exists fully in its own nature, content in simply being. Yet as human beings, we often forget this truth. We seek our value in the reflection of others instead of the clarity of our own heart. Comparison is like trying to measure a candle's flame against the moon. Both shine, but in entirely different ways. The candle offers warmth, intimacy, and light in the darkest corners of a room. The moon illuminates the vast night sky. Neither is lesser. Both serve their purpose. And so too with you. Your flame was never meant to be the moon. Your purpose was never meant to be theirs. Imagine yourself as a tree in a forest. You do not look left or right to see how tall the other trees are. You grow upward because that is your nature. Your roots stretch deep into the soil, not for approval, but for nourishment. Your leaves spread wide, not for competition, but to reach the sun. Now see yourself in that way, rooted, complete, growing without the need to compare. Notice how light your heart feels when you no longer measure yourself against anyone else. Reflect for a moment. What part of you shines naturally, without comparison? Is it your kindness, your creativity, your ability to listen, your quiet strength? These qualities do not need to be measured against another's. They exist as pure expressions of your true self. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the more we chase validation through comparison, the further we drift from peace. But the moment you recognize your own path, your own rhythm, your own flame, you return to yourself. Life becomes easier because you no longer exhaust yourself trying to be what you were never meant to be. So release the weight of comparison. You are not here to outshine the moon, nor to stand taller than the mountain. You are here to live as your truest self, with no apology, no measurement, and no fear. And when you do, you will find that the world is brighter. Not because you became like someone else, but because you finally allowed your own light to shine. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I belong to myself." 6. The illusion of adding more. Why do we think self-discovery means adding more? More achievements, more titles, more possessions, when in truth, it is the opposite. We imagine that to find ourselves, we must build, collect, and construct an identity. Yet the deeper lesson is this: the more we pile on, the further we drift from who we really are. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us, the path to yourself is not a search, but an uncovering. You are not lost, waiting to be built from pieces of the world. You are already here, whole and complete, hidden beneath layers of illusion. Every attachment, every mask, every false belief is like dust covering a mirror. When you wipe it away, your reflection shines clearly. Think of a sculptor standing before a block of marble. At first glance, it seems solid, unshaped, lifeless. Yet the sculptor does not add clay to create beauty. He removes. Stroke by stroke, he carves away what does not belong until the statue within is revealed. In the same way, self-discovery is not about becoming more, but about peeling away what is not you. Visualize this. Imagine gently brushing sand away to uncover a treasure buried beneath the earth. The treasure was always there. It did not need to be created. It only needed to be uncovered with patience, presence, and care. Your true self is that treasure, waiting beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and borrowed identities. Reflect on this quietly. What illusion are you ready to let go of today? Is it the belief that you are not enough? Is it the mask of perfection you show to others? Is it the constant chase to prove your worth through comparison? Each illusion you release makes you lighter, freer, closer to the truth of your being. Buddhism teaches that clinging is the root of suffering. We cling to titles, relationships, and possessions as if they could complete us. But when life inevitably shifts, the things we clung to slip away and we feel shattered. Yet when you realize your completeness is already within, you no longer fear loss. You understand that nothing essential can ever be taken from you. Life becomes easier when you stop building walls of illusion and begin dissolving them. Every layer you release brings you closer to peace. Every false belief you let go of makes your heart lighter. Self-discovery, then, is not a journey outward, but inward, not an addition, but a return. So pause and ask yourself, what will you carve away today? What mask will you finally set down? For the treasure of your true self has been waiting all along, not to be found, but to be uncovered. Stephen, the fear of losing control. What if control itself is the cage keeping us restless? We spend so much of our lives trying to hold everything together, our careers, our relationships, even our emotions. We tell ourselves that if we can just control every detail, then finally we will feel safe. But instead of peace, we discover exhaustion. Instead of freedom, we feel trapped in the very grip we created. The Buddha's wisdom is clear. Grasping turns freedom into chains. Every time we cling too tightly, we become prisoners of our own need for certainty. Life, by its very nature, is fluid and changing. To demand that it stay fixed is to set ourselves against the truth of existence. Think of water in your hand. When you hold it gently, it rests in your palm. But the moment you squeeze, the water escapes, slipping through your fingers until nothing remains. Control works the same way. The tighter you grip, the more life resists, and the more drained you become. Visualize this. Imagine opening your palm and watching water flow freely, sparkling in the light as it slips past your hand. Instead of being lost, it continues its journey, joining rivers, seas, and clouds. This is what happens when you loosen your grip on life. By releasing control, you allow things to move as they are meant to move. You trust the natural rhythm instead of forcing your own. Reflect quietly. What would happen if you loosened your grip on life just a little? What if you allowed situations to unfold without demanding they match your script? Perhaps you would discover less anxiety, less resistance, and more space for peace. Perhaps you would see that life has a way of guiding itself if only we allow it. Buddhism teaches that clinging to control is a root of suffering because it denies impermanence. Change will come, whether we resist it or not. Loss will come, growth will come, seasons will pass. When we insist on holding life still, we suffer twice. Once from the change itself, and once from the refusal to accept it. But when you let go, something extraordinary happens. You find that you are carried not by force, but by flow. Challenges still arise, but they do not break you, because you no longer demand that life obeys you. Instead, you walk in harmony with it. So pause and consider. Where in your life are you holding too tightly? What burden could be lightened if you opened your hand? Remember, true strength is not in control. It is in trust. And when you trust life's flow, you discover that freedom was never something to grasp. It was always in the letting go. 8. The truth hidden in stillness. What if the answers you seek are hidden not in noise, but in silence? We are conditioned to search endlessly, through books, conversations, and the endless noise of the world. believing clarity will be found in more words, more advice, more information. Yet, the harder we chase, the further the answers seem to slip away. The greatest truths are often not shouted, but whispered, waiting in the quiet we so often avoid. The Buddha reminds us, in silence, the truth whispers what words cannot. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the space where the restless mind softens, where clarity rises like the sun after a storm. In the stillness, the confusion of thought settles, and what remains is a deeper knowing that cannot be reached by noise. Imagine a lake on a calm night, so still that it perfectly reflects the stars above. When the waters are disturbed, the reflection is broken, scattered, unclear. But when the lake is at rest, it becomes a mirror for the heavens. Your mind is the same. When stirred with constant thought, it cannot reflect truth. But in stillness, the stars of wisdom become visible once more. Visualize yourself now, sitting still for just one breath. Inhale, exhale. In that single moment, notice the space between thoughts, the silence beneath the noise. That silence is not empty, it is alive, vast, and deeply nourishing. Each time you return to it, you return to yourself. Reflect gently. When was the last time you sat in silence without distraction? No phone, no conversation, no task at hand. Just you and your breath. For many, silence feels uncomfortable at first. It confronts us with ourselves, with truths we have buried under endless doing. But the more you sit with it, the more you see. Silence was never the enemy, it was the doorway. Buddhist practice teaches us that meditation is not about escaping life, but about discovering its essence through stillness. In quiet presence, we see thoughts arise and pass, emotions rise and fade, yet awareness remains untouched. It is here that we meet our true self, not the self shaped by noise and identity, but the self rooted in timeless presence. When you invite silence into your life, you discover that clarity is not something to be chased, it is revealed. Peace is not built by adding more, it blossoms naturally when you remove the noise. And in that peace, life feels lighter, simpler, and more meaningful. So sit in stillness, if only for a moment each day. Breathe, listen, and allow the quiet to speak. For within silence lies the truth you have been seeking all along, the truth of yourself. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I belong to myself." 9. Freedom from the world's approval. Why does freedom begin where fear of judgment ends? Because as long as we live chained to the opinions of others, we are never truly alive. We measure our worth by their approval, shape our choices by their acceptance, and hide our truth to avoid their disapproval. Yet, the paradox is this. No matter how hard you try, the world's approval will never be constant. It shifts like the wind, leaving you exhausted from chasing what was never yours to keep. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us, the chains others place on you exist only if you wear them. These chains are not physical. They are made of thought, fear, and belief. The moment you choose to stop wearing them, they lose all power. But letting go is not easy. It requires courage to stand as yourself in a world that prefers conformity. Imagine a bird with wings strong and ready to soar, yet it stays inside a cage because others believe it belongs there. The bird is free the moment it remembers the truth. Cages are not permanent, and wings are meant for flight. Many of us live like that bird, perfectly capable of freedom, yet bound by invisible bars of judgment and expectation. Visualize this. Picture a rope tied tightly around your chest, restricting your breath. You live each day trying to please, trying to fit into spaces that suffocate you. Now, imagine untying that rope, loosening it until it falls away. Take a deep breath. Feel the air filling your lungs without restriction. This is what happens when you release yourself from the weight of others' approval. You breathe freely, live openly, and act from truth rather than fear. Reflect honestly. What approval have you been enslaved to? Whose opinion holds you captive? A parent's, a friend's, society's endless expectations? And if their judgment disappeared tomorrow, who would you allow yourself to be? Buddhism teaches us that dependence on external validation binds us to suffering. When we allow others to define us, we abandon the self we are meant to discover. But when we find the courage to walk in our own truth, even if misunderstood, we taste the sweetness of real freedom. For freedom is not about being accepted by everyone. It is about no longer needing to be. Life becomes easier when you no longer fear judgment, because every choice you make comes from authenticity. You begin to realize that the world's approval is fragile, but self-acceptance is unshakable. So, untie the rope, step out of the cage, spread your wings, and fly in your own sky. The world may not always understand, but your soul will finally breathe. And that breath, that freedom, is the beginning of a life truly lived. The power of remembering, not becoming. What if the journey isn't to become someone new, but to remember who you've always been? So much of our struggle comes from believing we are broken, incomplete, or unworthy, and that only by becoming more can we finally be whole. Yet this is the illusion. The truth is not about becoming. It is about uncovering what has always been within you. The Buddha's wisdom echoes gently. You are not incomplete. You are covered. Covered by fear, by doubt, by the voices of others, by the endless chase for worth outside yourself. But none of those coverings change what you are beneath. Just as clouds cannot diminish the sun, illusions cannot diminish your true nature. Imagine the sun on a cloudy day. You may not see its brilliance, yet you know it is still there, shining beyond the veil of mist. No matter how thick the clouds, the light remains untouched, unwavering. In the same way, your essence remains pure and unbroken, no matter how many layers of illusion obscure it. Visualize this. Picture the clouds slowly drifting apart and the golden light pouring through once again. That light was never gone. It was simply hidden. This is the experience of remembering yourself. When the layers of self-doubt and false identity fall away, the radiance of your true being shines effortlessly. Reflect softly. What part of your original self is waiting to be remembered? The child within you who laughed freely without fear of judgment. The soul that once felt connected, peaceful, and alive before the world's noise grew too loud. That part of you has not disappeared. It waits quietly, like sunlight behind the clouds, ready to return the moment you allow it. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that the path of awakening is not about creating something new, but realizing what has always been present. Every meditation, every mindful breath is a gentle brushing away of the clouds. It is not striving to be someone else, but resting as who you already are. And in this remembering, the struggle softens because there is nothing left to chase. Life becomes easier the moment you stop searching for completion outside yourself and begin uncovering the completeness within. You were never lost. You were simply covered. The journey of self-discovery is a return home, not a race toward becoming. So pause and ask yourself, what layers are ready to fall away today? What light is waiting to shine again? Remember this truth. You are not broken. You are not incomplete. Like the sun behind the clouds, your true self has always been there, radiant, whole, and unchanging. All that remains is to remember. 11. Life begins where fear ends. What if life becomes easier, not by changing the world, but by letting go of fear? So often, we believe that if circumstances shift, if people change, or if the future aligns with our plans, then peace will finally arrive. Yet Buddhism teaches us that peace is not found by rearranging the outer world. It is discovered when the inner walls of fear dissolve. Fear builds walls. Courage opens doors. These words remind us that fear is not merely an emotion. It is a barrier we build, brick by brick, around our own freedom. Every anxious thought, every hesitation, every avoidance adds another stone to the wall. And before long, we wonder why we feel trapped. But the truth is, no one has locked us inside, only fear has. Like a door we never realized was closed, fear silently restricts us. We live in its shadow, thinking safety lies in control and avoidance. Yet the door has always been there, waiting for the courage to turn the handle. Imagine this for a moment. You reach out, gently unlock the door, and it swings open with ease. Beyond it lies a vast, open meadow, bathed in sunlight, inviting you to step forward without chains. Visualize yourself walking through that open gate. Feel the weight leave your chest as you breathe deeply in the open air. Notice how the tension you carried was never the world pressing in on you, but the walls you built within yourself. The fear was never permanent. It was only a veil. And now, with courage, the veil begins to lift. Reflect on this truth. What fear would you release if you trusted life more deeply? Would you stop shrinking yourself to please others? Would you take the first step toward the dream you've delayed for years? Would you allow love to enter your heart without the fear of loss? Each release brings you closer to the freedom of living fully. The Buddha taught that fear is born from clinging to control, to certainty, to permanence in a world that is ever-changing. But when you loosen your grip, when you allow life to flow as it will, the storm quiets, the gate opens. You no longer need to guard yourself against every possibility, because you realize that no matter what arises, you have the strength to meet it. Life begins where fear ends. The moment you trust that you do not need to control every outcome, you taste true ease. It is not the absence of challenges, but the absence of resistance. It is the knowing that you can walk through the open gate into the vast meadow of your own being, unshackled, unafraid, and free. So I ask you gently, what fear will you lay down today? The door is already open. The meadow already waits. All that remains is the courage to step through. For beyond fear, life itself is waiting, vast, radiant, and deeply alive. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I belong to myself." Bonus lesson: the ease of being yourself. Could the hardest lesson simply be to relax into who you are? So many of us spend our lives striving, polishing, and performing, believing that ease will come when we finally become perfect, when every flaw is erased and every expectation is met. Yet Buddhism whispers a softer truth. Ease is not found in perfection, but in presence. The peace you are seeking is not ahead of you, it is within you, waiting to be allowed. We suffer because we carry the weight of becoming. We wear masks to be accepted, chase roles to feel worthy, and exhaust ourselves in the pursuit of proving our value. But life does not ask you to be anything other than yourself. The tree does not struggle to be a mountain, nor the bird to be a river. Each one rests in its own nature, and from that ease, beauty arises without effort. Why then do we fight so hard against our own being? Like a river flowing without effort, simply by being itself, you too can live with that natural ease. The river does not question its direction, nor compare its rhythm to another stream. It flows because flowing is its truth. Imagine, for a moment, lying gently in that river. Feel the cool water holding you, carrying you without resistance. You are not swimming, not fighting the current, simply allowing yourself to be carried. That is the essence of being yourself. No force, no mask, just trust in the current of your own life. Visualize this still more deeply. Close your eyes and sense the river's embrace. Notice how the body softens when there is no need to control, how the heart relaxes when there is no need to prove. In that surrender, there is not weakness, but freedom. Presence itself becomes the sanctuary, and ease begins to bloom like lotus petals opening in the morning sun. Ask yourself gently, what would change if you allowed yourself to simply be? Would you stop pretending to fit roles that no longer serve you? Would you finally release the weight of comparison? Would you discover that joy arises not from effort, but from authenticity? Each time you allow yourself to rest in presence, you step closer to this truth, that who you are has always been enough. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist the truth of our own nature. To embrace yourself fully is not arrogance, it is wisdom. For in being yourself, you honor life itself, exactly as it is unfolding through you. When you stop striving to become and begin resting in being, the struggle dissolves. Ease is no longer a goal. It is your natural state. So let this be your reminder. Life becomes lighter, not when you perfect yourself, but when you return to yourself. Ease is not something to chase, but something to remember. Like the river, flow as you are. Like the breath, be as you are. For in the gentle acceptance of your own presence, life itself becomes effortless. Quick summary of the principles. The prison of the false self. Most people carry the weight of living behind masks. They exhaust themselves trying to maintain a version of themselves that is not real. True freedom begins when you stop performing and dare to meet your authentic self. Identity, the mirage of labels. We cling to names, titles, and roles for security, yet they only make us heavier. These labels are fragile and easily taken away. The truth of who we are lies deeper than any definition. The silent witness within. Behind every thought, emotion, and memory is a quiet observer. This witness is not touched by chaos, fear, or pain. Recognizing this presence is the first step to inner peace. Living on someone else's script. Many live chasing expectations, trapped in the need for approval. They forget their own calling and follow a path never meant for them. Life becomes lighter when you write your own script. The weight of comparison. Measuring ourselves against others steals joy and peace. Every being has a unique rhythm and light that cannot be compared. Real contentment comes when you honor your own path. The illusion of adding more. We think finding ourselves means achieving or adding layers. In truth, it is about shedding what is false. The essence of who you are is uncovered, not created. The fear of losing control. The need to control everything drains life of ease. When you let go, you discover that freedom and peace arise naturally. Life flows best when it isn't clenched tightly in your fists. The truth, hidden in stillness. Stillness reveals what endless activity conceals. Silence is not empty, it is full of wisdom and clarity. In quiet moments, your true self speaks softly. Freedom from the world's approval. The fear of judgment binds us more than circumstances do. Once you stop living for validation, you begin living for truth. Real freedom is found in self-acceptance, not applause. The power of remembering, not becoming. You do not need to become someone new. You need to remember who you already are. Beneath layers of fear and doubt, you are already whole. Awakening is a return, not a transformation. Life begins where fear ends. Fear keeps us imprisoned in hesitation and resistance. When fear is released, doors open naturally. Courage reveals that life was always waiting for you to step into it. The ease of being yourself. The deepest peace comes not from perfection, but from presence. To simply be yourself, without masks or striving, is liberation. Ease flows when you stop trying to be someone else. So here is the truth. Life doesn't truly begin when you achieve success, when you are admired, or when you finally fit the expectations of others. It begins the moment you remember who you truly are. When you release the masks, the fears, and the endless striving to be anything other than yourself. That is when life becomes lighter, easier, and infinitely more real. Peace is not found in becoming more, but in remembering that nothing was missing. This is the Zen way. Nothing outside you completes you. The self you have been seeking is already present, waiting beneath the noise of thought and illusion. When you return to this awareness, you do not just find yourself, you begin to live for the very first time. Take this question into your heart. If all the illusions fell away, what would remain of you? The unshakable, unchanging truth. Remind viewers to like and share this video. Share your opinion in the comment box.